Alright, how's it going, guys? In today's video we are going to be doing an unboxing and assembly of the Woodwind Wi-Fi pellet grill, and it comes with the Sidekick here. I'm not going to be doing an unboxing or assembly of the Sidekick here because I already have a video on my channel showing you how to do that. So I will go ahead and link that down below in the description box. But here's an overview of what the box looks like here. There's really not much to it, so typically with these, when you unbox it, there's no cutting or anything. You just lift up the lid here, just pull straight up. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. Is I'm going to go ahead and open this up and set my table up, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Alright, I went ahead and removed the top box. I just slid it open here, and then the bottom box kind of folds out. It was all taped up, as you can see here, and then all I did was cut this tape and then unfold it here. I'm going to leave the bottom box because more than likely we're going to lean the grill back to install the legs, but I wanted to show you that it is pretty well packaged. So I'm going to go ahead and take off all this styrofoam, open this box, and remove the contents and get everything laid out and get the owner's manual, and we'll get started. Alright, I went ahead and took everything out here. It looks like we need to install the lid because it doesn't come pre-assembled. Inside the hopper here was the grease cup and your probe ports. And then on that box that we had, that was on top here, you can see, I'll show you this box here. We had the handle, the nuts and bolts, the ash clean out cup, the chimney, the stack cover, the owner's manual, and all this other stuff here. Then inside the grill itself, we had the legs, the shelves here, the lid to the hopper, and then the rest of this stuff here, drip pan and the bottom shelf and things like that. And then as well, that I put to the side that we're not going to be installing is the grate, the protective grate for the pellets that go on top, and then the side shelf since we're doing the sear box here. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to open up this owner's manual, look it over real quick, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Alright, step one is we're going to lay the grill flat on its back here. You want to be careful when doing this. This has a tendency of swinging open, and you don't want to swing it open too hard and then bend these the hood brackets, or for the lid brackets there. Then you'll be making adjustments later. So step one, we're going to attach the legs after we lay that down, and we're going to be using 8 of these bolts here. It has an Allen key that's provided here, and then we're putting a lock washer on. We're going to grab our legs here, and we have to make sure the wheels are on the right side of the grill and they're facing out and not in. And these wheels, you'll know which one goes which because it does make a difference. There's an F for the front, and then a B, you can see, for the back. So these will go in the front and these will go in the back here. Alright, I'll put that on in a second. And then we're going to install all our hardware. You got 2 bolts on each side, one here and one there, and that's how it goes for the rest of them here. So I'm going to go ahead and screw these down, and then we'll get to the next step. Alright guys, it was a pain in the butt to put these bottom ones on. It isn't because they weren't going on straight or anything. It was just because this was laying on the ground and trying to lift it up. So what I ended up doing, do this at your own risk, but I thought a quick little tip is I lifted it up straight up. I kind of laid this down, and it's supporting itself on the ground. There shouldn't be any issues with damage, but I just held the grill like this so I can tighten the back ones. It made it so much easier. I just didn't want to struggle with it. So quick little tip here. So while it is up here, we're going to be installing this bottom shelf here, and the directions want you to go ahead and sit it upright. I'm going to go ahead and install the bottom shelf here. So let me look at the hardware here and prop this up so it doesn't fall, but it's easier to install the bottom shelf while it's on the ground here versus trying to maneuver it upright. So let me get the bolts, and then I'll show you what we need for this next step. Alright, we're going to be installing the bottom shelf. Like I said, for the hardware you're going to need 4 of these longer ones, and then 4 of these nuts here, flange nuts. And what I went ahead and did is I already installed 2 of them here. I laid it on its side, I stuck it in here, and then I put these 2 down. So I'm not trying to wrestle with getting it lined up. I'm going to go ahead and line it up, make sure everything's ready to go, and then put the bolts on the bottom there, just so I'm not trying to hold this lid and everything. If you have another person, you can go ahead and tilt it up and then put it on and they can support it. But since I don't, I'm going to go ahead and get it lined up, flip it up, and then tighten the hardware, and then we'll lift it up right. Alright guys, I went ahead and flipped it up. I don't know why they have you trying to flip this up and then put the bottom shelf. It's so much easier to do it while it's laying down like I did here. And here's a little tip. This can go either way if you would like. This is what Camp Chef has it going. But if you plan on putting stuff underneath and sliding around or moving things, flip it over. And you can actually, these will act as shelves so things don't vibrate off and stuff. For me, it isn't an issue. I don't put anything down there. Besides maybe a bag of pellets or something. But the next step is, sorry, it's cold over here. We are going to be installing this chimney stack here. I already put the lid on here, and we're going to need the gasket here. It's for hardware. The hardware is already installed here. So we're going to back these screws out, install the stack with the gasket in between, and we'll move on to the next step. So let me go ahead and get that started. Alright, I went and installed the chimney stack here. Like I mentioned, it was just the 2 screws here. There's no bolts or anything on the inside. The next step is we're going to be installing the lid handle here. But before we get to that, I'm having to move this around because of lighting. So I'm going to put this side handle in first. I've already started it here, but from the directions it looks like the hardware is already attached here. But anything from this big washer and this locking washer goes on the inside, and then what's left on the outside is this rubber washer here. So I'm going to go ahead and finish installing the rest of this here, and then we'll move on to this handle here. And for this one here, you have everything, all your hardware and everything's already attached here. The only thing that's going on the inside is this screw here, or this the other end to where the screw connects to, and this big metal piece. This piece here itself is going to go on the outside, so I'll show you what it looks like after I install both of these handles here. So alright guys, I'll be back with you. Alright guys, I went ahead and installed the side handle here, so now I can move it much easier versus trying to grab anywhere else. And then I installed the lid as well. As you can see, there's only really one way for it to go, and you want to make sure it's facing this direction and not flipped around or anything, because it doesn't do any good. This provides an air pocket to keep this handle somewhat cool. Next, we're going to be installing this hopper lid here. And for the lid, we have right here, and the hardware, here's all our hardware here. It's going to be these 2 little itty bitty ones. There are only 2 of them there, so you can't mistake them. So we're just going to install it here and get it put on. It's hard to do it with one hand, but I'm going to go ahead and screw it in, and then I'll get with you guys here in a minute. Alright, we went ahead and put this hopper lid on. It was a little tricky, but the hinge goes on the outside. So what I did is I positioned it like this, and then I grabbed my finger and just stuck it right here and kind of held it, and then tried and put one of these screws in, and then I did the opposite because I was fighting it. So I figured when I was able to support it here and then move it up and down little by little, I was able to get this in finally. So the next step is we're going to be installing these brackets here. You're going to see there's a cutout on the top one. That should go on the top right here. The cutout here, you can see you don't necessarily want it like this. So you'll put the bracket like so on the inside. There's 2 of these, and then there's 4 of these screws and flange nuts here. I've already installed one to show you what it should look like. You're going to put the screw on the outside and then the nut on the inside, so you can see where it's cut off here. So you're going to want to put them on both sides. So I'm going to go ahead and install this other one, and then we'll go to the next step. Alright, I got the other side done. The next step is we're going to be installing the side shelf if you don't have a sear box. The side shelf is on the floor, and then the screws are going to be your last 5 here that you have left in black, but since I'm going to be installing this sear box, I'm going to go ahead and unbox this real quick, get it installed on the grill. And like I mentioned, I'm not going to film that part because I'm going to link that video in the description box because I don't want this video to get too long. And then as soon as I get this installed, we'll move on to the next step. Alright, I went ahead and got this Sidekick installed here. Like I said, if you don't have this, you're going to have a side shelf, and I showed you what to do here. Then we're going to mount these, this grease cup here, and then the little hook is just right underneath here with this liner. After that, we're going to put in our drip tray. I already installed it since it was kind of difficult to do it one-hand filming. But you can see the long piece, there's a short stubby, then the long one goes on the right side of the grill. And make sure it's in between you guys' the grilling feature, the deflector plate there, whatever they call it. After that, we are going to be installing the rest of this grate's second shelf. That's pretty self-explanatory. And then when we get that, we are going to be installing these knobs here. These knobs right here, there's only one that says grill, so that one has a specific spot here, and then you just turn it and then you're able to move it. These other two, one's going to go for this hopper clean out, the other one's for your ash clean out down here. And then after that, I believe we have the grease cup here, and that just goes right underneath. There's some tabs here. Let's see if I can get it on camera. Down here, some shorts, and then you just turn, and then that's installed. So I'm going to install the rest of that here, and then I'll show you what it looks like once we are finally completed. Alright guys, this is what we are left with. She's completely installed. The only thing we have left is those 5 screws here, and that was for the side shelf. And then we have one of these. I'm not quite sure what this is. Hopefully it's extra. If not, I'm going to look over the grill once more just to double check in case we didn't miss anything here. But this is what she looks like here. The lid. There is no grate. There's a protective grate that you can install. I don't, just because when I'm cleaning out the pellets, it's easier for me to move them. It's there so you don't get your hand stuck in the auger. Then you got your controller and your meat probes down here, and then the Sidekick attachment. But alright guys, I think that's it for this video. If you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, go ahead and leave them down below, and look out for this the initial startup and then testing, and then the comparison video between the Weber Smokefire that you see back there. So alright guys, I'll catch you on the next one.